And this gives rise to a very, very important principle called Bateman's principle. And Bateman argued something very, very simple. He said, as a general rule, the sex with the higher parental investment is choosier. That is, requires more inducement to engage in sexual activity than the other sex. Now, usually, but not always, this is females in many species. In some species, there's no difference, and in some species, it's actually males. But the principle here is the sex with the higher parental investment is choosier. Furthermore, the sex with the lower parental investment across mammals tends to compete for access to the one with the the higher parental investment. And indeed, if you look across a wide variety of animals, what you find here is a phenomenon known as sexual selection, where usually the sex with the lower parental investment has acquired ornaments, size, coloration, songs to allow it to compete for access to the higher parental investment sex. So you find this sort of generalized pattern that the sex with the higher parental investment, which usually follows the gamete distinction, does not always follow this, but usually does. So you find this sort of pattern here. So I'll give you some examples of this. If you are an elephant seal, right? You only breed, if I'm not mistaken, on this one island somewhere off the coast of Argentina, and they gather on this island. And the way you mate, if you're a male elephant seal, is you fight the other males. There's a female. So very much difference in size. Because the males have to fight with each other. So you get this sexual dimorphism. Two forms. Huh. So if you see a species with lots of sexual dimorphism, you start saying, okay, we know what's going on here. Other ways. Here's sexual dimorphism in the baboon. Males much larger than the females. So the males tend to compete for access to the females. Let's say, moving on to other animals, here's another way you can compete for access to females. What they do is they fight for a piece of land, and the females come on that piece of land and mate with whoever was the victor. So it makes sense to have these huge horns to fight. Other ways it matters. Go across bird species. Who has the colors in the birds? The males. The males have the colors. They're the pretty ones in many species. This male is basically saying to this female, who's very drab, look at me, you want to mate with me, don't you? I'm a good investment. Let's say you're a guppy. I know we always think about guppies, right? The males have the coloration. What about in lions and tigers? Who has the ornaments? Yeah, the males. The males have the ornaments here as well. In many species, the sex with the lower parental investment develops ornaments to compete for access to the females. Sort of this intriguing little issue. So the general principle here seems to be the sex with the higher parental investment selects for certain traits, color, manes, because they show fitness in some way. Huh. Does this play out in humans? You're shaking your head no, you're shaking your head yes. I don't know yet. I haven't seen how these slides turn out. I'm hoping it does. So any questions about Bateman so far? Some interesting.
So what would be the parental investment that is happening with the males and the females that parents are choosing? I'm not understanding like.
So let's say these two are a couple. So you would look at parental investment in how much resources the female devotes to caring for the offspring versus the male caring for the offspring. And if the female devoted more resources, we would expect her to be choosier, and the male lions to compete. So Like,
I'm just thinking about her offspring, is the female who's choosier getting more parental investment to her offspring, who's another female, and less investment if they had two, like say two cubs.
oh no, okay, so I have the male and the female lion here, so male and the female lion, and they have an offspring, but I'm not worried about the offspring's gender. Now, both of these could raise the offspring together, right? This one goes and gets food, this one goes and gets food, this one watches, and so forth. It could be equal. What you actually find very often is that the female devotes more resources to the offspring. So each offspring is going to cost her more.
And those resources tend to include what? Is it just time? And
Well, it's time, food, protection, risk, right? So, we're coming to a river and have to get across. Okay, the infant can go into the back of the mother or the back of the father. We're being attacked. Okay, well, we need to find water. Both can contribute. So that's what the measure. That's a good question. That's the measure of investment. Well, the standard example of all of this is the peacock, for many, many reasons. The standard examples. How could we show that what the peacock is doing is trying to woo the peahen? How would we show the function of the peacock's tail?
Increase the number of eye spots and
So how might I increase the number of eye spots?
Well, like you said earlier, they taped them on there one time.
Well, yeah, you could do the taping on there, but before we get to the taping on there, what could we do? We could simply go out in naturalistic observation, right? If the number of spots is important, so if we have a number of spots, some sort of mating success over here, what kind of relationship would we find naturalistically?
Positive.
Yeah, we would find a positive correlation, right? We would expect in a natural sense that, oh wow, turns out the peahens prefer males with more eye spots. Well, we could also experimentally manipulate this. I could go here and cut off all of this peacock's tail. He goes out the next day. What do we predict is going to happen? What's going to happen to him? No, nothing. He's going to go out the next day. He's like, where are the women chatting to me, right? He's bothered. We take his eye spots and glue them onto somebody else. Guess what we've created? A peacock stud. You're right. That's what we've created. We've created a peacock stud, if that's what we've actually done. And what we find here is that the peahens are more attracted to the males who have the more eye spots. Now, why does this matter? What's going on here? Well, as it turns out, it takes a lot of energy to grow these eye spots. So the male here is basically saying, look, I am a great genetic specimen. I am so healthy I can grow these eye spots. I can avoid predators, right? Because these things are heavy. And the eye spots are produced by testosterone. Testosterone suppresses the immune system. So this male is basically saying, look how healthy I am. I can try and kill myself and still survive. You want to mate with me all in your eye spots. So,
is there like an average amount of eye spots?
I imagine. I don't know what off the top of my head. I don't even know what a peacockologist would be.
I mean, this is like the second time you brought up peacock, so I'm figuring.
Because they're really the sort of standard example of a lot of this, for this particular thing.
You said usually it tends to be the female though, right? That's choosier. So what would you find if it would be the opposite?
Some bird species actually show the opposite pattern, because the male spends much more time watching the eggs. The female goes out and getting food, and that creates an investment on the male's part because he can't go mate with any other female while he's sitting there watching the eggs.
So So in that case, females will try to be,
Females try to be males.
so they develop certain characteristics that.
Yeah. This goes with the, that's what's interesting about Bateman, is it goes with the parental investment, it doesn't go with the gender. Like, so that's what makes Bateman so interesting. So what researchers do is they say, well, the peacock's tail is an honest feature of fitness, because to have a large tail, you must actually be fit. So this is sort of intriguing. Huh. Does this play out in humans? In humans, how do I ask this question? In humans, which sex is often thought to be the prettier sex? Males or females?
Females.
All right, let's go. You know what? Let's go. Which one is? Let y'all. So, which one is often thought to be the prettier sex? Do you think it's males, females, or both are equally thought to be pretty? What do you think it's going to be? Well, I'm trying to see if this is going to play out in humans. Let's go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, that's very often thought to be females. Wait a second, though. Anyone see a problem?
From the parental investment, you would think the males would be?
Yeah, from parental investment, we would expect it to be the males. And so this brings rise to some, oh, that's me talking like I'm a peacock. Look at me, I'm so healthy, I can have all these spots and still avoid predators. I have a lot of free time, apparently. Anyway, we're gonna come back to this question about who is thought to be, or I think that's actually my next slide. Nope, sorry, it's not my next slide. Colloquially, we might say that across mammals, females have a disposition to maximize the quality of their mates, because each one is going to cost more, and males try to maximize the quantity. Is this going to play out in humans? Because you got to remember, my question was, okay, is it best to think of female humans as humans first, or as females first? Here's the question: because if in other mammals and other primates, females show this, then we predict that human females should show this, right? Because they're showing the same pattern as other females. But what if they're best thought of as people first? Is that going to mess our prediction? Which is the best way of thinking about this? That females are choosier because of Bateman. Is there any other reason females might be choosier that has nothing to do with Bateman? You're right. No, you're right.
I don't know, I'm having a problem with it. Because it's like, you're saying culture is the reason, then how would culture explain the other sex's development to attract the other sex?
What do you mean?
Like, if it was culture, I mean, are you saying it's just strictly culture and human?
No, there is one school of thought that very often says, that looks at this and says, okay, across most mammals, females have the disposition to maximize quality. And so they say, well, this explains why human females are choosier. And they go, there's an innate disposition, blah, blah, blah. And they go, it is somewhere in the DNA, whatever you want to call it, be choosier about sexual partner. Another explanation is that you're a female, well, you're actually a female, right? And so in the course of your development, you learn various facts about being female in your culture, and you observe in your culture that if you have sexual intercourse, you run the risk of pregnancy, the guy does not. You run the risk of social disapproval, the guy does not. You run, so you go down the list, and as a cultural issue, you learn those things. Does it make sense? So
it makes sense, but I'm saying, right, But if it's culturally, then for me to woo her, I would join a gym, exercise more, get a better car, have more money, such and such, which is culture.
Mhm.
But I'm saying there are no biological things that I might develop without having those social factors that I will still be able to endure. Meaning, I'm just having this thing between biology and
I
social
mean,
factors.
they're not opposed. I'm not trying to say it's got to be culture or biology, but because clearly biologically females are the ones who bear the child. That's going to be a biological fact. But what are we to make of that biological